Welcome to Spark Your Joy, Encounters with Spirituality and Creativity, a monthly podcast in which I, Iva Buzhashka, will be interviewing international artists, filmmakers, musicians, sound healers, yoga teachers, wisdom teachers, creatives, about their life journeys and exploration of spirituality, creativity, and everything in between. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spark Your Joy, Encounters with Spirituality and Creativity. Today, I'm very happy to host Marije Terluin, Past Life Regressionist, who is currently based in Berlin, and she studied at the Quantum Healing Hypnosis Academy of Dolores Cannon, and she offers one-to-one sessions and group sessions, but we will know more today. So yeah, I will give it to her to present herself. Hi, Marije, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm very excited to know more about everything that you do.
Yeah.
So maybe, we can start first with who are you and your current lifetime.
Right. This one I'm focused on.
Yeah, and this one.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a past life regressionist, as you already put it, which I consider to be the best job in the world, actually. And within this framework, my main job is really my one-on-one past life regressions, which are really deep dives for a person to go into their past lives, but also to connect to their higher self. It's not just about the past life. It's actually much more about your current life, funny enough. And as you said too, I offer past life regressions workshops. I offer higher self workshops as well. And yeah, I learn a lot in this way. My clients learn a lot, and me on the sideline from them, because within every story of a person, you always recognize something about yourself as well. So it's really a magnificent journey that always keeps evolving and always keeps your mind flexible, because every time you think you've sorted it out, now you really know how the universe works. It's like, well, actually, look at this. And it's like, oh no, then I have to change all my belief systems again. But actually, I really love that. I really love that it's always, bringing me new understanding and expanding my awareness in this sense.
I agree that it's like an ongoing journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe it's interesting to see when this journey started for you, and maybe when did you land on a spiritual path,
Right.
and how does that happen?
That's a good question. Because I wasn't always spiritual, actually. This started for me when I lived in Canada. I'm from the Netherlands, and I moved to Canada. My husband is Canadian, so I moved there in 2014. And this is actually where my spiritual path unfolded. And later I found out it was because I had a very spiritual life in that exact place in Canada that triggered this experience for me. Because in the very beginning, when I moved to Canada, I wondered, why do I end up in this place? Like, it was a city in Canada that wasn't necessarily a city I wanted to live in. Although I loved the country, it wasn't the city that I was like, oh yeah, this is exciting. But there was really good reason for it, because this is where my spirituality started. And it all started actually when I was gifted the book Many Lives, Many Masters by a friend of mine. And this book is from Brian Weiss, who is by now quite a famous past life regressionist. And this book is really about his journey from being a clinical psychologist to becoming a past life regressionist, because he was very much science-based person, but through hypnosis, his clients kept going back to past lives. And I was reading this book, and it completely fascinated me. I really was eating it up. I was reading it very fast. But it also really confused me because I also never really been confronted with really considering the idea of reincarnation. I never really had any spiritual upbringing at all, also not religious upbringing. So it was really kind of puzzling me. But after I read maybe a third of the book, the next day something happened to me that left all confusion out of the door and really made it clear to me, like, this is it. And that was because I woke up in the morning and I was again thinking about this book, thinking like, is this real? Like, what to think about this? How does this feel? And I heard a voice then, and the voice was outside of myself, and it said, you knew about reincarnation all along. It's just time for you to remember it now. And it was a very, very intense moment. I would almost say like it was a big shock, because a shock to my system, like my body, my mental state, my emotional state, were all like, holy shit, what was that? But it was a big enough shock for me to also really turn my life around. And I guess I kind of needed a slap in the face because I really wasn't going there by myself. So that's essentially what happened. I heard this voice, and for me, the path was really about finding out everything I could know about reincarnation, about past life regression, because that was this book that I was reading about. And with it also became, of course, my spiritual life and my spiritual understanding. And this is something that is still unfolding today. Like I just said, like it's always something that keeps on going, and it's always my curiosity bringing me to new paths or new realizations about the nature of our reality. But that's where it started. And very shortly after that moment, I would say, I don't really know how much time went over it, because I have a hard time tracking time in that sense, because it seems so distorted. But I think it was probably within the 9 months of that moment that I actually went to Dolores Cannon's QHHT course in the States. I pretty fast went into that, and then also started doing sessions right away.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you definitely like directly jumped
Oh
into...
yeah, when I know. Yeah. It was the same with my husband. I saw him in Thailand. I'm like, okay, that is my husband. I will move to Canada. We'll be together for the rest of our lives. It's kind of how I work.
My goodness.
Yeah. It's I'm very decisive.
And did you move? Did you meet your husband before Canada, right? Yeah, because
I met him in Thailand actually 13 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And to be very honest, we've met, of course, in many past lives. Now we know that, because when I started doing my past life regression work, he was my guinea pig, of course, in the beginning. So I've tested a lot of times on him, and he loved coming to my group regressions. And so many times we've seen different lifetimes where we were already together, not just as couples, also as siblings or as friends or as a teacher, all different ways. And also not always in loving ways. Sometimes we really didn't like each other so much. But yeah, it was no coincidence that our paths crossed, and that it's been, that we're still together, and it's been the most wonderful relationship. Yeah.
And I remember actually, because I've attended 2 group sessions, one in person in Greece, in Corfu, where we met in person the first time, and then online. And now recently you hosted an adventure with Mike Dooley also. So I remember that on one of these you were saying that you killed your husband at one of your past lives or something. Like, wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's done pretty horrific things to me too. I won't mention them here, but on the same level as, I would say, killing. Yeah.
Like,
we've been through many things together. Which is probably also the case for anyone listening, and also for you, anyone that you're very close to. You've met each other before, and you've been with each other before, and perhaps in different dynamics, different kinds of relationships. But we keep coming back and back to keep learning from each other, overcoming certain struggles, and to always come back to forgiveness and also loving each other.
Yeah, and okay. I was gonna ask you about karma, but maybe we can just start with what is a past life regression
Mm.
and then go from there.
That's good. Yeah.
Or
I sometimes
the other way
forget
around,
it's
whatever.
not normal yet. For me, it's so normal. Yeah. So I would just explain my one-on-one sessions, because this is really the main focus, and also my one-on-one sessions make by far the biggest impact on a person's life. A one-on-one session, keep in mind there's many different kinds of past life regression techniques out there, and I think all of them are wonderful and they're all for different persons, but the technique that I use is QHHT, so I'll just explain this specific technique. My sessions take anywhere from 5 to 6 hours. They're really long, although when you're in it, it doesn't feel very long. But the session basically has 3 different components, 3 different parts. And in the first part of the session, I just sit down with my client and talk about their life right now. Because whatever is going to show up in the regression, it's always related to their current life, which is a bit of a paradox because it's called past life regression. And then sometimes people ask me like, oh yeah, but why should I go into my past lives? My current life is already so much to deal with and so much to unravel. And I'm like, well, that's exactly why you go into a past life to get clarity about your current life. And that can happen in many different ways. But yeah, the first part is just talking about a person's current life. So for the session, I can become their advocate for themselves. I can ask them the questions that really relate to their life. And then the second part is the regression part, where people lie down on the bed that I have here in my office, which is right there. And then I guide them to a past life. Could be one, could also be multiple past lives, but they are the ones experiencing the life. For some, it's a very visual experience, never with their physical eyes, but with their mind's eye. It can be very visual. For others, it's more a sense of feeling, not so visual, but more a feeling or sudden knowing or sudden spontaneous memories. But whatever life shows up, and this is something I really love about QHHT, whatever life shows up, I always ask for the higher self, for their higher self, to decide whatever life it wants to show them, because in this way I know they're completely safe. There's, like I said, there's many different techniques. Some say, oh, you have to relive very traumatic lives to release this trauma. In QHHT, it doesn't work necessarily that way. Sure, sometimes traumatic things happen, but oftentimes the higher self says a person doesn't have to relive because it could actually also re-traumatize a person. So I know that when the higher self chooses a life for the person to relive, it is always something in their best interest. It's always something for their benefit, and it's always something that's going to help them in their current life. So it could potentially show where a certain limiting belief comes from, or where a certain behavior comes from, or even also a certain interest or a certain fear. It could be many different things. But a past life can also show symbolically what to do in this lifetime. So sometimes the higher self shows a life to really motivate or really inspire or stimulate a person in their current life about a certain decision they should make now. So sometimes it can be really, almost like an advice or a motivation for a person to be like, hey, you can do it because you've done it already. So, be confident that you can do it again. And then there's the third part of the session. And that's the most exciting part. I find it one of the most exciting parts, because in the last part of the session, I ask for my client's higher self to come forward and speak directly through them. So basically, then we're talking through directly to their intuition, directly to their voice of the higher self. And then anything can happen. Any information can be asked, first of all, about the life that was shown. Like, why was this shown? How to apply this? How does it connect to their current life? What's here to learn about it? But after that, I can ask my clients big life questions, like, what is my life purpose? Or why did I have to go through this crazy childhood? Or what is there for me to do with the rest of my life? Or how can I support my children? How can I support my health? There's many, many different questions, but this is something that I always tell my clients. It's their homework to formulate questions that they have for their higher self. And that all comes out in the session. And usually, I would say 99%, people only need one session. It happens that people come back, but usually it's maybe a year later, and it's just out of curiosity, or their life has changed drastically and have new questions. But overall, a person only really need one session to get all the answers.
Yeah, I have to say that in one of the past life regressions, I saw myself drowning. This was the end of the lifetime.
Yeah.
The lifetime, the life.
Yeah.
And then I am actually afraid of water and deep waters.
Ah,
So
yeah.
I was like, okay,
Right.
that's why
Right.
I actually died like that.
Hey, and when was it that you had that past life? Was it recently, or is it something that was already a while back?
No, not so while. Not so
Not so long ago.
no, not so much.
Because oftentimes within a couple weeks after going through an experience like this, seeing where the fear originated, oftentimes then the conscious mind starts making a division, be like, oh, that fear belongs to that life and not to this life. So often then you don't even have to do anything for it, but often then it's released. In a one-on-one regression, I would then ask the higher self, is this already released? Will it be automatically released, or can the higher self release it? Because the higher self can also do any healing, really. But in a group regression, we don't go into that depth. But it can very well be that next time you are deeper on the ocean or on the boat or swimming, and you dare to go a little bit further without feeling any panic. It's something that might unfold.
Oh, I have to try.
Yeah, you should, and let me know. I always love hearing these stories because it's so amazing, these internal shifts that can take place after experiences like this.
Yeah, it's true that I haven't been yet because it's winter, even though it's warm.
Yeah.
But I can definitely, I mean, with 24 degrees.
See if it feels different now.
If it feels different, yeah. Yeah, because it was curious to see that it might come from there. So
whatever fear we have, or whatever conviction we have about something, whatever belief we have, either if it's a limiting belief or a positive belief, if you cannot track its origin in your current lifetime, if nothing happened in your childhood that really relates to it, it's likely because it's from another lifetime.
Yeah.
There's always a very logical reason for it.
Yeah, like yeah. Well, and then the fear obviously creates also the belief and
and then
repeating.
then you live that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but it can all be unraveled at the same time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's go then to the question of reincarnation, actually. Maybe from there, because I find it very interesting. There is actually well, this transformation, death, rebirth, and like the wheel of life. I kind of visualize at the moment because I also work with the medicine wheel in my work. So it actually has a relationship, like it's they say, even I've read that it can be that the Amazonian and Andean medicine wheel has its commonalities, but also origins from the Himalayas. So it can be really related. But yeah, my point is, about the reincarnation. I was wondering how do you work with actually the presence of death in order to be reborn? We need to die, and then with karma, as well. That is something that comes up now as an idea. But
I mean, in my regressions, people go to a specific past life, and I guide them through the life, but I also guide them through the death of that life. So they also experience what it's like to die. And I find this very empowering because dying is very, very smooth. Although of course, there's many different ways for us to die. Some can be very sudden, some can be very aggressive, some can be very calm. But the actual process of dying itself is very, very silky smooth, I would almost say. It's like taking off a glove and you just keep flowing. And oftentimes in regressions, I've also seen this, that the process of being born is not smooth at all. That's actually quite an aggressive thing, to be born as a soul into a body again, into the world and all these things. But dying usually is quite beautiful and very harmonious. And as soon as you are out of the body, you'll feel very, very good. And this is something that people then, of course, go through in a regression. It's very similar, for instance, to NDEs, near-death experiences. All these things are all completely common with each other. Sometimes a person, when they are on the other side, they keep going, and then they keep going into the afterlife and describe what is happening there. And there's many different phases that a person goes through within the afterlife. Usually at the very beginning, there is a resting phase. And within regressions, I've been there myself. I've been in this resting phase. A person doesn't want to move out of the resting phase. So if I know if they're hitting the resting phase, they're like, okay, leave me alone.
Life is so tiring. We need to rest.
Yeah, and it really feels like you're totally exhausted. And then I know, okay, well, then let's go to another lifetime then. But sometimes if they go or they skip the resting phase or they keep going, usually there's a resting phase, there's a phase of reflection where you're reflecting on the life you just lived, and you're kind of reliving it, not just from your perspective, but also of the perspective of all the other people that you have affected or you have impacted by your presence. So you're really getting a complete perspective on all these different experiences and how your behavior, how your choices have impacted others. The main thing is that as soon as you're out of the body, your emotional state will be very different, because the emotions come with the physical incarnation as a human being. As soon as you're out of the body, it will be much more a neutral way of experiencing emotions. And so when you're coming from a more objective and neutral place and reliving some of your old moments or important days, you'll be able to see it from a neutral stand place. And therefore also you can see, oh, I did that very good, but I didn't do that so good. And the thing that I did here, I should have done maybe a little bit different. And you take all that information and then you go into a learning phase where you're deciding together with your guides, together with your higher self, together with other people that have been important, karmic relationships, on how you can work out the kinks in the cable that you haven't really worked out yet, or how you can create a new lifetime where you'll be able to learn those lessons. And then you start preparing for that. And again, that comes with many different phases. If anyone is interested in this, there's a beautiful book about this from my teacher, Dolores Cannon. It's called Between Death and Life. It's stunning. It's really stunning. I just gave this book to my grandmother, who's 91. It got translated to Dutch, and she loved it. We often talk also about death, and obviously she's 91. It's something that is also in her life present. And it was really cool because she said, yeah, this is all new to me, but she says, I felt like I already knew it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
So reincarnation, it's the cycle. And same with karma. Karma, it's not necessarily, oh, you did something bad to me, now I'm going to do something bad to you. It's all about this balance of different experiences, knowing how you've impacted someone, knowing how you can, rebalance that or harmonize that, just knowing what it feels like to be the sister of someone who gets killed, and maybe you were the one killing someone before. It doesn't mean you have to be killed after. It just means that you have to learn all the different angles, all the different ways of experiences, just to learn and to grow.
Yeah, that calms me down a little bit.
Yeah. That's good. There's no such thing as punishment. There's no such thing as negative life choices, really all. And this is something that really also past life regression and also my spiritual sense have brought me, that I really stepped away from judging anybody's life path, because we all chose to a large extent the things we wanted to go through, and it's often based on the things we just wanted to learn and the things we wanted to experience, but really from a neutral perspective, not so much from a perspective of taking something personal or having a revenge or something like this. It's really just out of sheer joy of being able to experience all these different facets of life.
Yeah, no, I was saying that because I in both past life regressions, I met a person that I met also in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's I've asked you before, and you said it's like normal that people you can encounter.
Recognize people in the past life, we have for sure. Yeah. They might look different, but you'll recognize their essence.
Yeah, and I was thinking, oh, I don't know what karma is here. I was a bit worried.
Right.
But now it's okay.
Okay. Were you surprised to see that person? It's not a person that's very important now.
I met this person now twice, maybe. So it's not
Oh,
really
okay.
like
So,
part
so
of
often.
it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
definitely I felt kind of a connection or something around
Yeah,
it.
familiarity perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like it was not like I meet any random person
Yeah,
that I've met. Well, random person. Yeah.
yeah. Not
It
like a
was like more
stranger.
special I met.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
cool.
yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah. So wait, what else I wanted to ask you? Because we
Mhm.
talked about well, I actually didn't ask you exactly what does spiritual mean to you. I mean, we are
Mm.
talking about this, and this is anyways already a spiritual perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, to believe in reincarnation and but what does it mean to you now in your life, maybe? I
Right.
don't
Yeah, to be
know.
spirituality. Yeah, for me it's ever since that day in Canada, it's been for me the driver of my life. And it also has allowed me to completely change my outlook on life, on myself. I actually used to be a pessimist big time. I'm completely an optimist now.
Wow.
Oh, I've changed really drastically. I'm really not the same person anymore as I was before. And for the better, I would say. Most people say this. But yeah, spirituality for me really means being able to focus on yourself, focus on your inner self, focus within, not so much without. And for me, it's all about moving into oneness, into non-duality, to move away from the polarity that we're being presented oftentimes, and being able to know that deep inside we're all one, and we're all one with the divine, and to live life really from an open-hearted place, to be able to find and experience inner peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it comes in many different phases, in many different ways, but it's for me, it's everything in my life. It's the biggest driver. Yeah, there's nothing more important than that.
Yeah, yeah. And also I think, I mean, to add on for me, also for instance, with these teachings of the medicine wheel, it's they really work with going inwards in order to change the
The
projection
outer.
that you have. Yeah, the outer
Yeah,
projection of the inner world, which is
yeah.
the outer world, right? So
I think it's the only way we have influence. And also, I don't just think that, I also say that because the higher self says it again and again. Like, if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself, or you
within,
have to
yeah.
perhaps heal things for yourself that hasn't been healed yet, or find out what thoughts or what behavior is very limiting to you. Find out what ways you can open your heart more, because we have a lot of effect on our environment by shining our light as brightly as we can. But we have no effect on the environment when we are wanting to push or pull or shout or tell others what to do or give others advice, even if we do it in the most loving way. Really, the only way for us to change the world is to
Yeah.
really focus on ourselves, to keep our eyes on ourselves. All the rest is distraction.
Yeah, and then it will reflect outside
Yeah. It
after.
really will. Like, one of my favorite teachers is Seth. He's channeled by Jane Roberts. I don't know if you know Jane Roberts. She's one of my favorite writers. She was active in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, I think, 80s maybe. And she channeled Seth. And Seth says, he says, you cannot stop war by hating war. You can only stop war by loving peace. It's the only thing. And the higher self in my sessions have said it different ways, but it's all saying the same thing. The more you're focusing on peace, on your own peace, on inner peace, or bringing peace to others, on being kind, on bringing peace to your family, to your environment, to your friends, to your pets, this is going to have an immense effect, because we're all connected to each other on levels that our conscious mind cannot even comprehend.
Yeah, that we also well, we are still on a journey to be able to work with that as well.
I know duality is very tempting, it's like, oh yeah, but there's bad and there's good, and it's like, yeah, sure. Maybe meditate.
That's nice to focus on what to embody it and
to really bring it into your life, and with it to your environment. And the beauty of the ripple effect that we have on other people, and this is something that the higher self also often says, the higher self of my clients, I mean, when I say that, it's that the effect that we have on others is really, really massive. And sometimes the effect, you're affecting someone who's not even close to you, someone you don't even know, someone who isn't even in your proximity. Might be people in a completely different country, even in a completely different timeline or a different dimension. Even past life versions of you will be impacted by you bringing in more light into your own life, by you bringing more self-love or self-value or respect into your own life. It ripples out like a massive domino effect into directions, not just linear, but also through dimensions, through lifetimes, through parallel existences. We really affect much more in this way than we can comprehend. I find it very exciting.
Yeah, and that also reminds me of the past life regressions that you do, and you bring actually your clients to the future.
Yes, also,
selves.
yeah. Good bridge.
There is no time.
No time.
No space.
It's often for a lot of people like, but future, like what? How can we go to the future? It's not determined yet. And it's like, well, maybe not for the linear timeline that we're in right now, because physically we do experience time in a linear way. But as soon as we move out of the body, as soon as we're on the other side, all time is happening now. All past lives are happening now. All future lives are happening now. And I also don't fully comprehend this. I also don't really understand how that really works, or it's really hard for me to be able to really integrate that. I just know it's true, and I leave it at that, because I feel it's too abstract for my human brain to really, really understand it or really grasp it. So I just have peace with it. I know that's how it works. And so in regressions, also when I do a past life regression, sometimes people go into the future as well, because I just ask the higher self, show whatever life is going to be, the most beneficial to this person. Sometimes that lifetime can also be in a future time. Future times are as accessible and have as much to say or to teach us of who we are right now. But I know it can be really a bit of a mindfuck for people. I like it because it really helps you to really know that we just don't know everything, and that's okay. We don't have to be able to put everything in a concise box or put a good label on it and be like, okay, this is what it is. And it's like, no. There's so much more, and there's so much more, things out there in the universe that we are probably not even meant to fully comprehend. We're just meant to surrender to it and go with the flow and have fun while doing it. Spark your joy while doing it. This is something that the higher self says all the time. Like, joy is super important. So you have no idea how important it is. But the more joy you can have in your life, again, the brighter your light will shine.
And you said the higher self. We're talking about the higher self, and I was thinking to ask you about our intuition and the higher self, and the relationship with creativity, and how creativity is an expression. Is it an expression, or what? How do you see this relationship? So cells.
I love that intersection there. For me, intuition is the voice of your higher self. Your higher self speaks to you through your intuition, and for many people that can come different. For some it really is more like a voice, for others it's a gut feeling, for others it comes really clear in dreams or in, I don't know, like in certain curiosities that they feel. But creativity is a massive tool also for the higher self, because essentially when you're being creative, you are being intuitive, you are being inspired, So when you're working creatively, you're actually really channeling information from other realms, and you're putting it into your work, or you're bringing it into your life in whatever way possible. So I think those things are very connected. And also, I know when people in regressions come and they are creative people, those are usually also very strong sessions. I mean, there's many things that are very beneficial for a good session, but if a person is very creative, that basically means that person is very intuitive, because they're opening to have inspiration flow through them and create what comes through them. They're basically the channel for it. So those things are all very closely related. Same, for instance, as imagination as well. Imagination is also one of these tools that are it's really a way for your higher self to speak to you, and it's different than fantasy. I would say fantasy is more something that comes from the ego or from the conscious mind, perhaps, to create something, usually to make the self look very good, or to have the self benefit in a great way. But imagination is, again, like creativity, also a tool for your higher self to show you what your capabilities are, or to show you your potential, or to show you what you can manifest, or whatever it is. But all these things are very much higher self tools, higher self's way to be in touch with you.
Yeah, because actually you mentioned the creative people, and it's like they are not so following the restrictions of the mind.
Yeah.
Kind of more open to receive.
Can be super helpful. To be honest, the most important ingredients for doing a past life regression is really your curiosity. If you're curious about it, if you feel this spark of interest about it, that already means that your higher self is putting that inspiration for you in your field to explore it. So it doesn't mean that all my clients are creative, not at all. I also have people that are super really scientific based, even, or very rational, or say, yeah, but I'm a very analytical thinker. They still also have great sessions. But there's just certain things that can be helpful in that way.
Yeah. Our creative nature. Well, I was thinking before, when you were saying about future and past, I was thinking that actually for me, it happened when I am let's say in 3 places at the same time, like even not through Zoom. No, we are from Spain and Germany, but if you like, I've lived in different places, like in these 3 places, let's say. So it's kind of I had this conversation with a friend of mine, that she cannot really, because she's been only in one place all her life, so she cannot really feel herself in another at the same time. But for me it happens, and I think as it is with places, the same ways with time as well. That's kind of my I was reflecting on it.
So there's something very interesting that Dolores Cannon teaches actually about this, which is within the realm of parallel universes. So she says, and I found similarities about it also in my regressions. She says that for every choice you don't make, there's another part of you that does make that choice. So, for instance, the Iva that lived in the Netherlands, there's also a part of that Iva that is still living in the Netherlands, that didn't decide to then move to Spain. So there's a parallel version of you living out the different life paths that you could potentially choose from. Which again is completely, it's really hard. But sometimes it happens that you can switch these timelines. So sometimes it might feel like, but it also kind of feels like I'm also still there, or I still feel very connected to that place, or whatever it might be. So this might be the reason why you still feel this, and it might be the reason why your friend doesn't have it, because she never made these big choices to have those big moves, for instance.
Wow, very interesting.
I know, it's crazy. I love thinking about these things, but sometimes it's also a bit overwhelming. It's like, okay, now my brain hurts. Now I just have to put it down for a while. Yeah, I think really our reality is so different than what we think. And it's all about our beliefs. Like if we believe we're just these physical bodies and we're going to die and nothing's going to happen and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that will be your experience, because your mind will look for things that affirms what you're believing. But if you start changing your beliefs, or if you start maybe just loosening up about some of these beliefs, you will also get the proof for that. You will also then get, new kinds of information or new kinds of experiences that align with that belief. So really, we can really create our own our own experience of reality completely. And the book I would recommend about this, as you might notice, I'm a total book nerd. So Jane Roberts, I'm just reading a massive, amazing book about exactly this. It's called The Nature of Your Personal Reality, and it's by Jane Roberts when she's channeling Seth. It's incredible. It's so beautiful. And it's, again, also completely in line with what the higher self of my clients says in my sessions. So it's really, really exciting about how we can create the most amazing belief system, and also learn to recognize beliefs that are not helpful, to make sure that we live life in the most beautiful way. Yeah. And also deal with some ugly things. I mean, it's not just about, fun and rainbows and everything. It's also about having space for other emotions or other feelings or old traumas. All also has a place. But there's always ways to overcome, to forgive, to grow, and to always, again, at the end, open your heart as wide as you can. Yeah, to really be as fully alive as possible.
Yeah, and actually that is I wanted to mention earlier that for the people who listen or watch, that they can definitely visit the website, apart if they're interested in the past life regression, which can be also future life
or future life, yeah.
But apart from that, there is an amazing book library recommendation
on my website. Yeah,
on your website. It's amazing. I really love this.
It's ever expanding too. I keep adding new books to it. Yeah, for sure. And I always love sharing this kind of knowledge. So I have it on my website, also on my Instagram. I often post things that I'm learning, or things that the higher self is saying. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot on there.
Yeah, and well, as we are kind of moving with the time,
yeah.
What is coming up for you? Maybe if you want to share, or anything else that you would like to share. Now is kind of the last.
Yeah, so one thing, it's a relatively new thing that I created, is the higher self channeling workshop. I might change the name to Developing Intuition Workshop. I'm not too sure. But this is something that I'm quite passionate about, because in a one-on-one session, and this is one of the most wonderful takeaways for me, when I have a client after a one-on-one session, maybe 6 months later, say, hey, after our session, I still hear my higher self every day. I now know exactly what it sounds like. I know what it feels like, so I can recognize it in my everyday existence, and I really allow it to guide me. I think that's such a beautiful thing, because ultimately, if we really trust our intuition, it's the most wonderful superpower we can possess. It really be a life-changing thing. And so I started creating these higher self intuitive workshops, where I explain some of these basic teachings about what the higher self has said again and again, that apply to all of us, not just to a specific person with specific questions, but really general information that is really helpful for all of us. So this is something that I'm ever creating. And within this workshop also, actually, we're going to channel your higher self. You're channeling your own higher self, getting answers to some questions, all with the intent, so when people walk away, that they feel a stronger connection to their intuition, and hopefully also be able to keep building it. And I explain how intuition works, how it doesn't work, how it speaks, how it doesn't speak, and how to really strengthen this connection. So that's something that it's ever ongoing, and I'm really excited to keep producing new workshops within this realm.
Because you have something coming in December about a workshop of higher self channeling workshop?
Yeah, I think it's on the 3rd of December. Yeah, I have a lot of workshops. I almost every month do workshop, past life regression workshop, higher self channeling workshop. So yeah, some are online, some are in person in Berlin. But there's always a lot of offerings for people to choose from. Also all on my website, by the way.
Because actually so that's people can see there, but just last question that popped up in my mind about what you're saying about the intuition, because often it is that people can eventually hear their inner voice, but they don't follow it. This is another thing, right? How do you actually really trust and really
No, it's a good question. And I think one of the most important things for us to realize, it's not a very strange thing that we don't follow it, because we didn't grow up in the world where we have a lot of role models that show us how to listen to our intuition and follow our intuition. Because our intuition often asks for us to be quite spontaneous and to really make life choices that might not be so logical sometimes, because the higher self sees the bigger picture of your life. It sees, a bigger picture that the conscious mind has no access to. So the conscious mind might say, yeah, but I have to go to school, and then I have to do an internship, and then I become this profession. Whereas the higher self says, why don't you call that friend and cancel your appointment of tomorrow and go to that shop and spend some time there and see who you meet? It might be something quite random, but the beauty is, and this is something that I have experienced as well, is as you're following it and as you're really acknowledging this kind of information to come through, your inspiration, your intuition, and you're following it, and then you get the proof. Then you get the proof like, oh my God, I really had to be there. Or, oh my God, I really had to call this person. Or, oh, I really needed to read that book, or I really needed to hear that song. It's constantly these synchronicities. When you're becoming aware of these synchronicities and you're getting the proof that it was a very good idea to follow these things, in that way, you ultimately train your mind as well to loosen up and to start trusting the intuition and not right away say, no, that's silly, doesn't make sense. I already made those plans. I cannot cancel those plans, or whatever it might be. But by allowing you to just experiment with it, follow its advice, getting proof that it works, the steps will get bigger and bigger. But it will start very subtle. It will start as small steps and not very intimidating actions. But the actions might get bigger and bigger as your higher self notices that your trust in it is growing. And with it also, your life will unfold in the most beautiful of ways, because our conscious mind cannot comprehend what is possible, whereas the higher self, as I said, has this bigger picture and knows how you can live your life to the fullest potential. So yeah, it's super exciting.
Okay, so I think that I'm gonna be there for the
I'm the biggest advocate for people to really allow themselves to listen to their intuition and share it with other people. Be a role model for somebody else, let somebody know, like, hey, I followed my intuition, this happened. And then the other person's like, really? You can just do that? Should I do it too? Like, yeah, go for it. We can be each other's role models.
That is true. For me, when I think of it, every time I followed it, it was the best decision. It was really the best decision.
Yeah, so you cannot foresee why it would have been, but if you do it, and then later you get the proof that, oh my God, yes, this was great. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that I have a lot more questions. I can have
right.
I can keep you here.
Usually the case. I could talk about this forever. I love it.
But yeah, we can we can let the people who listen or watch spark your joy now to go to your website, Wonder Never Cease, which I like the name as well.
Thank you.
And it will be in the description, so you can just directly go there and find out more about upcoming workshop, one-to-one work as well of Marije. And and thank you so much for being
thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the platform. Lovely chatting with you.
And see you soon online for sure, and then maybe we see about Berlin. That was an idea of mine as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, nice, amazing.
For one-to-one, that was already in Greece. I was like, okay, let me see when I can.
Okay. Exciting.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you. And yeah, enjoy your day.
You too.
um...